speaking at this year's Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit. I'm the author of over 100 books of science fiction, fantasy, and self-help books for writers, and I'm also with the Alliance of Independent Authors, ALLi for short, which is a nonprofit organization for self-published writers to help writers achieve ethics and excellence in self-publishing. I look forward to speaking with all of you at the event. And in the meantime, you can check out a lot of the free resources that ALLi has for authors at selfpublishingadvice.org. We've got a blog. We've got a podcast network. We've got books and guides to help you in every step of your publishing journey. And we're thrilled to do that. I hope you'll take an opportunity to take a look at the resources we provide. And I look forward to speaking with you at the summit.
Trust me, this is an excellent blueprint. The subtitle says, Write fast, publish cost effectively, and generate lasting income. This book tells you how to do that, and it also shows you examples. And so this is really a winning toolkit. It's like a business in a box for Caribbean authors at home or in the diaspora to win. I'm excited about that. Book publishing has many paths, and just figuring out where to go at each stage can be confusing. But with insights and guidance from author experts just like us, you can tackle the writing process competently and be assured that the goal of being a published author is within reach. Welcome to the Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit, the place for Caribbean authors to shine. With each staging of our summit, leading Caribbean author experts at home and in the diaspora share their stories and strategies to win with books beyond book sales. In the process, aspiring and published authors are inspired and lives are transformed. The Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit will ensure that fewer books die in the minds of their authors, more manuscripts become published legacies, and precious lives are transformed with the turn of each page. All right, everybody. Welcome to the second day of our Authorpreneur Summit, the Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit. This is session 3. Let me know if you are here for session 1 yesterday in the morning and session 2 in the evening. It was just so informative and inspirational, and today promises to be greater. Today we're going to be talking about AI, because when you go to upload your book to Amazon, you have to know, started last year, check a box that declares whether the material that you're uploading was AI, artificial intelligence generated or not. And then the issue of copyright is so important. We need to talk about it because as an author within your lifetime, because of copyright, you're able to earn from your book. And then when you pass away, your heirs can be earning from that book up to 95 years after your death in Jamaica. In other jurisdictions, it's up to 70 years. So we want to talk about that. And then what about support groups for authors? Are there groups out there that are looking out for us? So today we're going to present to you about the Alliance of Independent Authors, and we have a representative here. And so you're going to hear from Michael Ronn and you're going to hear from Jihan. Both are returnees. They were with us in previous summits, and Jihan is from St. Kitts and Nevis. Michael is from the US, and he lives in Des Moines, I think, Iowa. And we're going to adopt him, right? Jamaica is going to adopt him. We're adopting him to be part of the Caribbean. And you'll hear more about him in a little while. But we're going to do our declaration before we get into stuff, right? So I want you to grab your book, all right? And we're going to do some declarations. Good morning, good morning. Yes, Auntie Pastor, she was in the house yesterday all day. Good. So we're going to play our song and declare. Type it in the chat. This is my year. My book is going to do great. No one can stop it. All right, so I'm going to bring up the song and we're going to prophesy over our books. All right, so let's do that. Good morning, Daphne. Get your book out and let's declare, you know, this is our year. Our book is going to do great and no one can stop it. So I'm going to play that, type it in the chat, and let's have some fun and believe that our books are going to do well. Come on, everybody. Are you ready? I have my book. Come on, let's clear it.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is my year.
I'm gonna be great.
No one
cannot
can stop me.
No one can stop me. This is my year. I'm gonna be
Do
great.
great.
You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready.
Are you ready for
Are you ready? I'm ready. 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 Visualize it. Visualize it. Manifest it.
Yes.
Manifest it. I mind my business and I no complain. Every day I dey work and pray. As I dey chop, I dey wash my plate. I dey wash my plate. Don't be surprised when you see me elevating. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. This is my year.
This is my year.
I'm gonna be great. You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. This is my year.
All right, everybody. That's our song. And then we're going to get one more chance to do that in true Authorpreneur style, meaning that we build things around our books. This summit is built around this book, Authorpreneur Secrets. Write fast, publish cost effectively, and generate lasting income. This is the revised and expanded edition that has our Caribbean stories and documents the Authorpreneur journey over the last 5 years and where we're going until 2030. So this summit will continue at least, or maybe end in 2030 when we raise up those 10,000 authorpreneurs and fulfill our vision 2030. And so the paperback came out yesterday. The ebook is $9.99. The hardcover is $47 and the paperback is $34.99. And when you sign up for the academy, you get this book. And remember, this is your business toolkit. It will help you to publish cost effectively for less than $1,000 US. And you heard the testimonies yesterday. It is possible. So the summit is brought to you by Bamboo Sparks and the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy. So we're going to take care of some business and come back shortly.
Navigate your way to us. Step 1. Visit our website and browse our services. Step 2. Book your free consultation. Step 3. Complete and submit our preliminary consultation form. Thank you for watching. Feel free to nudge us on WhatsApp.
All right. So as I said, today is very important. We're going to talk about AI as well as copyright. And I want to share something with you because it affects all of us. And I've gotten permission from the author to share it so that you all can be aware of what is happening, and make sure you register your copyright and you secure all of that. So one of our authors, Osborne Bailey, personal evangelism, he wasn't getting his checks from Amazon. And for us in the Caribbean, unless we do a workaround through some money transfer agency like Wise or Payoneer, we won't get checks. We won't get money directly to our account. So we often have to choose the I don't have a bank option when you're uploading your book to KDP. And then Amazon will send you a check. They'll send that check once you've earned at least $100 in royalty on either marketplace, whatever the marketplace is. And so you also don't get paid immediately when you earn those royalties. You have to wait at least 60 days, and then the month following, Amazon begins to pay you. So his book has been out for maybe 6 months or so, and he was wondering what's happening to his checks. So he called me and I said to him, maybe because you moved, the check came and you didn't get it. But either way, just contact Amazon, go in your KDP account, look at the check number, and then just call and report it. They will check if it has been cashed, and then they'll simply reissue the check. Lo and behold, in the midst of that process, he discovered that someone else had hijacked his account and stole his identity and took his books, and he had to call Amazon multiple times, and he needed to prove that he was the rightful copyright owner of his own books. He took off his credit card off the system and everything, and they locked him out. And thankfully, because he had registered everything, and the ISBN thing saved him, because when he applied to the library and that kind of thing, he had that form. He also had his CIP, and he was able to get his account restored, had to change his email that he used. And he sent me an email earlier this week to say that Amazon is going to reissue his check and everything is now in order. And I'm saying, check your accounts. Some of you have set up your book and you have not been checking what is happening. I had one client 5 years ago, Amazon sent her a check and she didn't realize that she had even gotten a check. And so as I was updating our past and present client, I was able to help her to go in, and she recognized that, oh, I got paid. But Amazon verified that the check wasn't cashed, and they are now going to reissue that check. And so we want to encourage you to be vigilant, know what is happening. And then when we contacted the Alliance of Independent Authors, we got to understand that this thing is not unusual. It has happened before, far too frequent. And so, not to scare you, but we want to educate you and help you to be in a position, because it happened to us at Bamboo Sparks as well. We didn't get 3 or 4 checks. And thankfully, with subsequent checks with Amazon, they are now going to reissue those checks. And so we just want to inform you, to help you to protect your business. And that's what a big part of this session is about. Also about the copyright, like I said, up to 95 years after your passing or death, your heirs can continue to benefit from your copyright. And last year, Michael was here to talk about author estate management. And that is so important, because I remember in the comments, one of the attendees, a member of our Indie Authorpreneurs group, she was like, oh, she never thought of that. And she was just so happy for the session. Unfortunately, last year, she passed away. And I was able to talk to her daughter this week. And we're working on checking our account and making sure everything is up to date. And so before I invite Michael to come on and talk, I want us to just take 2 minutes and pay tribute to the members of this group who have passed away in the last 2 years. And you can still support their books. You can still buy the books and help their heirs to continue to manage it. But this is the power of copyright and intellectual property. Remember Vision 2030 to use intellectual property for socioeconomic development. And this is, your book is an asset, it's wealth creation, and it needs to be protected and passed on. So I'm going to put up their pictures and we're just going to observe a minute of silence for them. All right, so thankfully through Bamboo Sparks, we have estate management consultation for authors. And so if you know of any authors in this position, we can help them, especially as relates to Kindle Direct Publishing, to re-access their account and know what is happening. We can do a consultation session. All right, so our presenters for today, our guest authorpreneurs, are here. I'm going to introduce them briefly, and then they are going to present. We're going to start with Michael on artificial intelligence, what we need to know, AI, and he's going to present on ALLi just after this promotion. All right, Michael, welcome back to the summit. You're muted.
I do my best work on mute. Hi, good to see you. Good to see everybody.
Yes, welcome back. Welcome back. And we got a taste of you introducing yourself. So Michael is the author of over 100 books. That includes science fiction and books for writers. And he is a member and representative of the Alliance of Independent Authors. He also went to law school, and he is one of the hosts of the ALLi podcast. So when you have questions, if you're a member of ALLi, he's one of the persons, along with Sasha Black, who will answer those questions. And we're so delighted to have you, Michael. So I'm going to turn it over to you. So take it away.
Okay. Well, just give me 1 second to get the presentation all set up here. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? I guess I have to go and share here real quick.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I have the PDF up. So can you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
All right. So we just go with that.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be great. Okay. So first off, thank you everybody for being here and making time for this. So Ruth said that you guys would adopt me. I definitely am in need of some adoption right now because I've got 3.5 feet of snow in my backyard, and the thermometer is -10 in Iowa, where I live right now. So I need some sun, and I need some sand, and I need some sunshine. So if anybody wants to send a truck and a plane, I'll be there. All right. So I called the topic of this talk, Authors, AI, and the Future That's Here Now. And the reason for that is because this is an issue that is not going away. And it's easy to bury your head in the sand and want to just ignore this, but it's going to affect all of us. And there's a lot of people out there that have the doom and the gloom about AI. I don't have that doom and gloom. I'm not also one of those people that thinks AI is going to save us. It's not our savior. I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. And I think it's up to us to figure out the type of future we want to live in. And so if you go to the next slide. So just a little bit about myself. Ruth gave me a kind introduction. I go by 3 taglines. Dad. I'm a dad, so I've got a beautiful daughter and a puppy and a turtle and a rabbit, and I often babysit some chickens, so that's important to me. I also am the author of over 100 books. I need to update that slide. And I'm the outreach manager at the Alliance of Independent Authors, and we go by ALLi. So sometimes people pronounce it ALLi. We go by ALLi, and the reason we go by ALLi is because every author needs an ally in their self-publishing endeavors. And the Alliance of Independent Authors is a nonprofit organization by self-published authors for self-published authors. And we're a global organization. And I'll share more about us and what we do. But ultimately, we are very much tip of the spear on AI. We've been watching it very closely. And there are some things that we think that authors can benefit from today. And so I want to go over some of those things. So we can go to the next page here. So what is artificial intelligence? Let's just make sure we're speaking the same language here. AI is teaching computers to think and make decisions just like humans do. All right, that's at its simplest definition. We can make it complicated if we want, but we really don't have to. We don't have to make it complicated. That's all it is. It's teaching computers to think and make decisions just like we do. Now, it can't make decisions like we do, but it can make decisions similar to how we would do it. And that's what it's about. So it's about data and algorithms to solve problems, learn from mistakes, and improve over time. All right. So right now, everybody's talking about ChatGPT. You can't walk down the street without somebody mentioning ChatGPT, but AI has been around for a very long time. If you use spelling and grammar checkers on your computer, those are assisted with AI machine learning. If you use the dictation button on your phone to send a text message, for example, that's AI. The AI is all around us in many different forms. It's just now that with the advent of ChatGPT and similar AI art apps, everyone just happens to be talking about it with the advents of some of the newer technologies. Okay, so AI is with us. It's been with us for a long time, and you're probably using it in some capacity today, even if you didn't realize it. Go to the next slide. So there's a bunch of different use cases for AI, and I'll talk about a few apps here in a minute. But some of the ways that authors are using AI today, I just want to give you some ideas. One way is through idea generation. So coming up with ideas for your stories or your content. Let's say you get writer's block. You can use a tool like ChatGPT to help you figure out what you should write next. Right? There's also the ability to use it for research. And so it's a little dicey right now. You kind of have to check the facts that it gives you because it can make mistakes. But you could use AI for research if you're researching a novel or a place that you've never been and you want to put your novel in that place. That's one way to do it. People are also using it for writing text. Now, we don't advocate for writing books with AI. It's not there yet in terms of the skill level, especially with fiction. But it certainly can help you write things like ad copy or marketing copy. It can help you with your book descriptions and help you make them more salesy. So that's one way that a lot of authors are using it to help them with their book descriptions. And a lot of people are finding that these tools can help write better book descriptions than some authors could do on their own. Editing text. So if you've ever used Grammarly, that's a tool that helps. That's AI. It helps you catch typos and help you revise your text, rephrase your sentences. Anyone who uses audio dictation, so that's a popular writing style. Any sort of transcription, that's all driven by artificial intelligence. Audiobook narration. Amazon and Google and Apple allow you to create audiobooks with synthetic, very lifelike voices. Everybody's heard of the AI art generators. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. You can use it for data analysis. So if you get a bunch of sales reports or you don't want to look at a spreadsheet or spreadsheets terrify you, They can summarize the data and give you the key points for it. So if there's anybody here that is not a numbers person, this could be a great advantage for you. And anything else you can think of. There are lots of different tools that are coming out right now, and a lot of them are free. And we can experiment with them and play around with them and figure out how they can help us become better versions of ourselves. Because that's the point of AI. It's to help us augment our skills. It's not to replace us. You can go to the next page. So here are some steps you can take right now. First off, you just accept that AI is already here and it's progressing quickly. So at ALLi, we recommend adopting an AI curious mindset, and we recommend start learning how to use the tools. You don't necessarily need to learn how to put them in production, but just play around with them. Just a lot of them have free accounts, and just sign up for them and just see what they can do and test the limits of what you can do, and figure out how you can work that into your own workflow should you choose to do it. And another thing is that's really important is just don't give in to fear. AI, a lot of people are afraid of it, but I really believe this, and ALLi believes this as well, that AI and authors will coexist. And the future we're moving into in the next few years is going to be radically different than it is today and how it has been over the last 50 years. And things will change, but things will get better for authors, and we will learn how to coexist with this technology. Okay, next page. So I shared this with Ruth. She can share this after the presentation. I won't go into all of the details that are on this, but I just want to give you something you can use and you can take away from this presentation. So there's some tools that you can play with right now if you haven't already. And most of these, with the exception of the last one, are all free. So it doesn't cost you anything. So you can go play in the AI sandbox, figure out how things work, and you can start experimenting with all this stuff today, which is what we recommend. So you've heard of ChatGPT, I'm sure. I don't have to go into that too much, but type in what you want, ask it anything you want, and see what you can do with it. And there are lots of different things that it can do. There are tools to help you write better books. So there's a tool called Draftsmith that just came out that uses the power of ChatGPT and large language models and all of the fancy technology to help you catch typos. That's all it does. It helps you catch typos, but it helps you catch typos that nothing else on the market currently can do. So it takes your proofreading to the next level. All right. And they have a free trial. There's the audio narration that we talked about. These tools are free as well. You can play around with them, see what types of voices they can do. I was pretty pleased with some of the Amazon voices and the Google voices. In terms of dialects and accents, they're not quite there yet, but the accuracy is pretty good. And there's AI art tools as well. So there are people using AI art for marketing, AI art for images on your website. These tools are great, and you can get started with some of them for free as well. And it's amazing how far they've come just over the last year. So I've listed a few there. Just the only thing there is just some caution with the copyright, that a lot of these issues haven't been settled yet. So I wouldn't be putting AI art on your book covers today. I think that would be a potential pitfall. But learning how to use the tech and seeing how it works, I think, can be very helpful. Especially, I don't know about the rest of you, but I write stories with Black characters. And it is very, very difficult to find stock photos of Black people to put on covers. It's one of my great frustrations. And so AI art can help us with this in the future, to be able to create great looking Black models, men, women, children, to be able to put on our covers, to be able to market more effectively to our readers. So it's just something I just want people to think about. And then Microsoft 365 Copilot, that's coming out as well. It just came out this week, actually, where it puts the power of AI into your applications. So again, I'll share this after the talk. Be happy to answer any questions that you have about anything on here. So you can go to the next slide here. So we can begin using these tools now. The key thing that we recommend at ALLi is to respect the copyright of others and also respect the copyright of artists as well. There's no point using AI if you're going to infringe on the rights of another. So we really encourage people to be careful about that. And we have some resources at ALLi to also help you make sure that you're not accidentally infringing on someone's copyright as well. So as Joanna Penn, my friend, says a lot, our humanity is what makes writers writers. AI can't replace that. So just double down on your humanity, and you can use AI to help you do that. And final slide. So about ALLi, as I said, we are a nonprofit organization for independent authors by independent authors. We're based in the UK. As you can tell, I don't have an accent from across the pond. A lot of our members are throughout the world, but we're a global organization. All right. And we provide a ton of free information for you to help you on your self-publishing journey. And you can go to selfpublishingadvice.org, or I have a referral link if anyone's interested, and that's authorlevelup.com/ALLi. We have some paid memberships. We have some additional benefits, but most important for everyone on this call, we have a free podcast. We have a free blog. We have a lot of free videos on our YouTube channels to help you at any stage with any potential problem that you're dealing with. And we're here to help. And so we'd like to provide free information because there's a lot of misinformation. It can be difficult as an author to know where to go and what steps to follow. And so we're here to help you with that. And with that, Ruth, you can go to the final slide, and I'll just leave my contact information on here. Happy to discuss with any of you any of the benefits we offer, and a lot of the different benefits that we have. Happy to help. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. So we're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat, but we're going to take Jihan's presentation on copyright first, and then together, all of us will do our best, well, most of them, to answer your questions, and I will pose some questions. But from any comments on Michael's presentation before we turn over to Jihan, did Michael share any tool that was new to you? I know there was one that was new to me, but type it in the chat. Did he share any tool or say anything that was surprising that you think piqued your interest? Any AI tool that you're going to check out? Type it in the chat, and then I'll tell you which one stood out to me. Come on. Anybody? All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to put up the one that I am interested in, because I sometimes am afraid to look back at my book after it is published, because somehow I managed to see something that we missed going through the rounds. So I am going to, oh yes, Daphne says Draftsmith is new. And Michael did say that it is new. And we want to reiterate that the speaker's presentations will be part of your Summit Toolkit. That's why we ask you to register. And that will be going out on Monday. Right. And another user said, Michael, that they're not familiar with some of those AI tools. So it's like day one in the Caribbean as it relates to the AI tools. Even when I did the survey in the group, very few persons responded, but a few of the 300 and something members said that they were using it. And the thing is, many of us didn't even realize we were using it, because we use Grammarly. We don't think AI. We use, the dictation device on our phone, but we don't think AI. So we want to really thank you for that. Another user says, thank you. I would use the editing tool. I have used the art generator. Very succinct presentation, Michael. So thank you so much, Michael. Michael is going to come back, but right now we're going to bring on Jihan Williams. All right. All right, let me do a brief intro on Jihan. 1 second, Jihan, 1 second. I have a little write-up, you see, because Michael had his little video and all of that. All right. So Jihan Williams is a best-selling author, an attorney specializing in intellectual property law, and an advocate for pregnancy loss sufferers from the Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. After experiencing the tragic loss of her pregnancy at 26 weeks, writing became therapeutic for her. She felt compelled to share her thoughts along with tips and resources that helped her to cope, encouraging other pregnancy loss sufferers and those around them to navigate the grief and uncertainty associated with losing a child. So in 2021, she published her best-selling memoir titled Lifting the Weight of Miscarriage: Healing Insights for Pregnancy Loss Sufferers. And she has been using that in true entrepreneur style for advocacy. And her journey as an author also illustrates how a book can be used to advocate for and facilitate policy and legislative development. So put some fire in the chat and let's make welcome Jihan Williams Knight to the summit. Welcome, Jihan.
Hi.
Unmute.
Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I felt like because we're talking about AI, and I think I love how Michael ended. It's about the human side. So we're sticking face to face today, getting into the conversation. So there's no PowerPoint, but there will be one that I'll send to Ruth at the end of the presentation for the package. So people will have the notes. But I want us to listen. I want us to have conversations and pretty much, engage, because I really want people to take away as much as possible from this presentation. So in quick order, and please forgive me if I go very quickly, my goal today is to actually give you 10 pieces of information related to copyright that every writer or author should know. It's important as writers that we know these things because copyright is the basis that determines a number of issues that arise on our authorpreneur journey. So we're talking about issues relating to ownership, royalties. I'm sure we're going to get into that issue, as Ruth mentioned, liability, if you copy somebody else's work, or the rights that you have where your work has been copied. So let's get into it. We're covering 10 things that every writer or author should know about copyright. So number one, of course, what is copyright? So copyright is a bunch of exclusive rights that the law gives to persons who create original works. So these works have to be artistic, literary, dramatic, or musical. It also extends to sound recordings, so think audiobooks, films, broadcasts, cable programming. A literary work, a book is a literary work. So once it's original, authors have legal rights to their book. So the first thing I want you to remember is that books are legally protected property, just like your house. Number two, so what rights do you have as an author when you write an original book? So the law gives you a set of rights, as I mentioned, that only you as the author has. Now, these rights include the right to copy it, the right to adapt it, the right to put issues out into the public, the right to put it on the internet. There is just a slew of rights that you have in relation to this book that you have originally created. I like to think about it like the law gives you the right to construct a fence around your work, and you get to determine who has access, how they use it, how long that access lasts for, if they have to pay for that access, but you have those rights. So number two, of course, is know what your specific rights are as an author. Number three, the rights that copyright law grants when you create an original book is automatic. Say it with me, whoever you are, automatic. There's no further process that you have to undergo to have copyright. However, registration is worth considering, and it really has been saving some people, and I'm sure we're going to get into that as well, as Ruth mentioned. But registration helps to create evidence that you are the author. So in other words, you don't have to do anything. So after you've written the book, You don't have to do anything extra to get copyright. However, it is within your best interest to ensure that you establish pieces of evidence surrounding ownership to prove that you are the author, just in case it ever becomes a question. So let's use registration as an example and put it in a very practical sense that we could understand. If you went to a store and you bought a pair of pants and you paid and you walked out of the store and the buzzer went off, somebody might say, well, there's an inference that maybe you stole the pants. But having a receipt, something to prove that you paid for it, would actually give you the basis to prove that you have paid for this pants and you are in fact the owner. So a registration certificate actually does that for you, but it doesn't have to be just a registration certificate. There are other things that you could do as an author to establish pieces of evidence that help to prove that you are the owner, should that ever become an issue. But we could always go more into that. Number 4. Now, copyright lasts as long as you're alive and for a number of years after your death. Now, that number varies from country to country. In some Caribbean islands, it's 50. So in St. Kitts and Nevis, it's 50 years. In the US, UK, Canada, it's 70. Jamaica is 95. And I think Mexico is still at the top for the highest, which is 100 years. So that means that if you, once you are alive, you have these rights. And for years after, you still have rights depending on the country that is at subject. So it's important to know as well that even after you have passed, these things you can still earn from it, or your estate, of course, would still earn from it. So please, I'm happy that Ruth covered estate planning last year, because of course, if you're thinking about these sorts of issues, you should also think to include your book and the income from your book in your will, or any other estate planning initiative that you're thinking about. Not just don't protect your house. Your book is property as well. Number 5, you may also be protected outside of your country. So normally with intellectual property, you're only protected in the country where you are registered. So for example, I love to hear that Ruth said she trademarked Authorpreneur Secrets. But if she trademarked that in Jamaica, she's only protected in Jamaica. If she wants protection in the US, she would also have to apply in the US as well. However, that's with trademarks. But with copyright, you may actually be protected outside of your country. That's a bit of a longer explanation, so I'll just leave it there and allow you to ask me if you're so interested. So let's just do a quick recap of 1 to 5 before we move on. So your book is legally protected property. The law gives authors exclusive rights when you are an author. So know what you can do. 3, these rights are automatic. 4, these rights last as long as you are alive and for a number of years after your death. And 5, your book may be protected in more countries than your home country. So these are things to bear in mind. So let's get into number 6. Now, copyright protects expression, not ideas or intention. This is very important because we often love to say that somebody copied our work or accuse other people of copying other work. But copyright protects expression, not ideas or intention. So for example, my book is about pregnancy loss support. Anybody else can write a book on that topic. So that is the idea. However, if their work is an identical or substantially similar expression like mine, so if you took page 7 out of my book and it looks like it's part of your book, it's substantially similar to the work that is included in your book, then is when we can start thinking about whether there has been copyright infringement. So we have to be clear, it protects expressions, not ideas. And if you have an intention to write a book, somebody didn't copy your idea if they wrote it before you. You have an intention to write, but until you have expressed it in writing, there wouldn't be any copyright protection. Number 7, don't forget to include your copyright disclaimer in your book. This is the parts you usually find in the first pages of a book. So that's to say, for example, all rights reserved. The author does not allow use of any part of this book without any written consent or things of that nature. This is you letting the world know that there is a legal fence around your book. Number 8, refrain from using other people's work in your own work. Because if you do, you may have to ask for permission, and at the very least, you'll have to sufficiently acknowledge the author of the work that has been incorporated in yours. So in every case, you would have to consider whether or not whether it is important, whether you would have to get permission to use a portion of the book or a portion of somebody else's work. We can get more into that if there are questions. But using other people's work would mean that you'd have to get permission, or at the very least, sufficiently acknowledge the author and the title of the work that you have incorporated in yours. Which leads me to number 9. Know that the public domain in copyright has a specific meaning that is different from public domain that we understand in natural language. In copyright, public domain means works that are no longer protected by copyright. So this is where the time period that I mentioned earlier, where it has run out. So where it has run out, the works then are said to enter the public domain. When works are in the public domain, you don't have to ask permission to use them. However, if we think about the term public domain in our natural English language, we tend to think about it as it being somewhere where it's accessible. It is very important for you to know that as authors and as writers, access does not equal authority. You may have access to information on the internet, however, you don't necessarily have the authority to use it or incorporate it in your work. So if you're not sure, this is a question you have to ask when you're using other people's information. Do I have access or do I have authority? And then lastly, clearly establish ownership when working with collaborators, such as illustrators, ghostwriters, and joint authors. When it comes to questions of ownership with other people, it is always best to put it in writing. You are free to determine what split you want, whether somebody gets 40, somebody gets 60, somebody gets 5% of ownership. It's free to you to determine, for you all to come together and make an agreement about ownership. But there must be an agreement about ownership, and it's always best to put it in writing. So to recap, number 6 to 10, copyright protects expression, not ideas or expression intention. 7, include a copyright disclaimer in your book. Number 8, know the rules when using other people's work in your work. 9, access to work does not equal to authority to use. And number 10, establish ownership in writing when working with collaborators or joint authors. So those are my 10 things that I hope that everybody walks away learning and understanding. But of course, if you want more information, I'm happy to help. Thanks so much.
Wow. Can we give it up for Jihan? Put some fire in the chat, send up some heart emojis. That was short and very, 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 very informative. And so we want to take your comments and questions. I did my best, Jihan, to just put the notes on the screen.
No problem. I'll send it to you and you could put it in the chat.
Right. And remember, if you registered for the summit, if you're on our mailing list, then you're going to get this in the summit toolkit. So if you haven't registered, just hop on over to authorpreneursecrets.com /summit schedule and register. I'll put that link on the screen, or just go to authorpreneursecrets.com and click register, and it will take you to the registration page. Let's hear what our audience is saying, because we should have a lot of questions for both of you, because you know this is a hot button issue. This person is saying fire. Hold on, before that, fire. 2 excellent presentations. Thank you both. This other user is saying wonderful, and thanks for putting the notes, Ruth. This is sweet sauce. That's Auntie Pat. Daphne is saying vital information shared from both presenters. Knowledge is really empowering. So let's take the question, and either of you can respond, because Jihan is an attorney and Michael went to law school and the vast experience. Any of you can respond to this question. What about bilateral arrangements if you're an affiliate of Jam Copy, which is a Jamaican Copyright Association?
I'm not quite sure what about it. What about bilateral arrangements? That I'm not clear what the person is asking, and I'm also not familiar with Jam Copy, so perhaps they would be the best person to explain about their procedures.
Right. And interestingly, I had originally intended to have Jam Copy present.
I remember, yes, you said so.
So I actually got the information to invite them. And I think because this is Caribbean based broad and they're Jamaican, I think I want to invite them to come differently, to just present in the group on another occasion, and maybe invite them to the podcast as well. So if they had been here, they would be able to answer that. So maybe I've been a little disobedient.
And it's also important to know if other people in other islands could use Jam Copy as well. So that's something that would be interesting to explore.
What I know about Jam Copy is that they represent authors. They do a lot of teachings, and when you register your book with them, usually you have to present the print book and the copyright information, all of that. At the end of the year, they send you a royalty check. So the different schools and organizations that would use your material, they have some arrangement with Jam Copy, the right to print, the right to copy, and Jam Copy, in a sense, oversees that. And also, if there is any copyright infringement, they hold your book, a copy of it, so there's evidence. And they have 2 different facilities. There are authors. They have rights for authors and for publishers. And I think if you register as a publisher, which I haven't done, because now that we have so many books, oh my goodness, but you actually get a royalty check at the end of the year. But I'll definitely invite them. So if you could expand on that question, what do you mean by the bilateral arrangements? Then, okay, so here is perhaps the expansion. If you copyright in with Jam Copy, that represent authors here, and they have bilateral arrangements with some overseas CMOs. What is CMOs? Doesn't they automatically protect you in that other jurisdiction? That's Patricia Reedwar.
Okay. Actually, okay, so I understand the bilateral agreements in the context of music. So I wasn't sure if it's the same thing with books. But a CMO is a collective management organization. So Jam Copy is a CMO. So CMOs collect royalties on behalf of groups of writers, publishers, or other people who have intellectual property rights. So if they have bilateral agreements, you would have protection. However, the protection that I was referring to extends to the fact that there are countries that are party to something called the Berne Convention. And when countries are a party to that convention, they have agreed that not only am I going to extend copyright protection to the works that have been created in my country, but I'm also going to extend protection to works that have been created in countries that are also part of the Berne Convention. So there are currently about 179 countries that are party to the Berne Convention, from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. So if you're there in Jamaica, and if Zimbabwe has in their law that they're going to protect works that are from countries that are party to the Berne Convention, that means that your books in Jamaica also have protection. So that would also mean that if you later find out that your book is being copied without your permission in Zimbabwe, you would have the right to go to Zimbabwe and file copyright infringement claim.
Okay, here is another one. If someone turns his thesis into a book, does the same level of credit be given to his sources when he writes his book? That's an excellent question. Because, when we're doing our doctoral or whatever academic thing, we're allowed to cite all of these sources. And I have never gone to any of the authors to get permission. So what happens when I convert that now to a book?
I see Michael is shaking his head, so I'll let him answer that one.
Yeah, well, I was shaking my head. Because it's an excellent question. I suppose it depends on who your audience is. If the audience is academia, then maybe you don't need permission. But if you're just publishing it on Amazon and you're citing source material, I don't know. I'm not in the academia space. It would be. It's an interesting question. To me, I think if you're publishing a research paper or a thesis, I still think that the laws of copyright apply, and probably would be better to err on the side of caution than not to. Personally, would be my thought.
Yes, my view is that it still requires the same level, especially now that it's become in a commercial context. So you still have to at least sufficiently acknowledge your sources so that persons can know that you're not claiming the work as your own, the work of other people as your own.
Therefore, I want to ask, what about fair usage? What is fair usage, and does it come into play? Because I have quite a number. We publish for a lot of academics and people with terminal degrees, and the books are filled with sources they've not plagiarized because they have given credit. But do they really have the permission to should they have done that? Because it's not an academic paper. This is commercial work now. So should they have sought copyright permission, since this is not a commercial work? It is their book for sale and not an academic paper.
No, that's when you go into the question of substantiality, how much of the work has been taken. So if you're just using, and I don't want to say like a little and mean, the amount of words taken, but if you have copied a significant amount of the research and put it into your work, as opposed to mentioning that this scientist did this research and these were the findings, have you taken a substantial part of it? Are you using it for criticism, review? In those circumstances, you don't have to ask for permission, but you have to sufficiently acknowledge. So it would be in that case a situation where the safest thing I would say is baseline premise, always acknowledge. However, if you are using a substantial part of somebody else's work to the point, let's say, for example, after buying your book, there is no need to go buy that person's book, then you would have to ask for permission. These are things that there is no clear formula to say 2%, 5%. When it's this, do that. It's not clear because it's determined on a case by case basis. But baseline premise is always at least sufficiently acknowledge them. And if you plan to use a substantial part of it, ask for permission.
Yeah, and fair use has to be determined by a judge. So if you're at a point where you want to argue fair use, you've already been sued. And so you really have to ask yourself the question, do I want to get to that point? And if the answer is no, which I imagine would be for 99.99% of the people watching, then get permission.
Wow. What about songs and poetry?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yep.
Same thing.
Don't quote them. Don't include them
No,
without permission.
you could quote them, but for example, using the entire song as part of your own album, again, that would be completely wrong. Of course, if words of a song have been inspirational to you, there are words in my book, from songs in my book, but I was sure to include the name of the artist, the album, the year of publication, and these things. So my book, as small as it is, still has my sources, references in the back. So
Okay.
when you use other people's work, it's important that these issues will arise, which is why I always advise, if you could avoid it, do not use other people's work.
Because what happened as a nonfiction author, you need to present evidence, especially for fiction, maybe not because you're making it up. Of course, it depends on the genre, historical research and stuff. But for nonfiction to be credible, you need the sources, you need to point to other material, evidence. So when you say get permission, what does that actually mean? How do you go about getting permission?
Writing or contacting the owner of the copyright and explaining to them that I am about to publish a book on this. I found this work of yours to be instructive. I would like to use it. Do I have your permission? You at least have to try to avoid later copyright infringement, because if the person says no, why publish it in your work? But let's not confuse what you're talking about with, like I said, referring to a study or quoting something specific out of somebody else's work. Sufficient acknowledgement in those cases is often okay. But like I said, if you are now copying something from somebody to the point where I don't have to go buy that person's book because you've put so much of that information in there now, therefore depriving them of the economic benefit of their work, then you have gone too far.
Yeah, and remember that copyright protects the expression of the words. There's nothing that says that you can't paraphrase what is in the other person's work. So if you're referencing a study, you could always paraphrase it using your own words, as opposed to copying what's in the person's work as well. And you can just cite it and reference it so that readers can go and look it up on their own time and see it that way. But another thing you also have to think about is if you ask permission, you may, the author that you're asking permission may want some money. So that's how we make our living, right? We make our living creating property and drawing fences around it, right? And sometimes in order to get that permission, some folks may ask for money. and it may be more money than you want to spend. So I think what Jihan says about not, going out of your way to not have to include other people's work in your work, I know that sounded funny when I said that.
This is the safest way.
It's the safest way, and it's the cheapest way. I mean, I work with an author once who wanted to put a Bob Dylan lyric at the beginning of one of their novels, and they reached out to the record company, and the record company said, "Oh yeah, we would love to give you permission." And then they said, they sent him an invoice for some, I don't know how much money it was, but it made the author fall out of his chair. So, if you can get the permission, but are you willing to pay for it is another piece. And, if it's a one paragraph in your work, probably not worth it. Probably better to find a way around it.
Okay, so just to be clear with Suzanne's thing, do you need permission from an author, even if it's only one sentence referred to in the work? Just for clarity, just address that, and then we take another.
Normally for one sentence, no. One sentence out of hundreds of pages of a book, no. If somebody has published a book, however, and said these are the seven answers to success, and then you go publish all 7 in your book, then perhaps that's where you have then taken a substantial part. I hope I'm making that clear, because that is the substance of that person's book, and you've now taken that and put it in yours. So these are the kind of things that you have to consider. But normally on a standard basis, one sentence would not need permission. But of course, everything requires sufficient acknowledgement.
Okay, so this is a follow-up. I guess it's very important here. She said, but suppose you know that your ideas is also in other people's work.
So I would say that that's exactly what Michael was just talking about. It's the expression that is protected. And I mentioned that in my presentation as well, not the idea. So if you have a book, if you write a book about poverty, why is there so much poverty in a particular place? You may have ideas and you may have research about it, which may be similar to what somebody else has already published, but you also have the idea, you also agree with it. So in those cases, put it in your own words. You don't copy and paste what somebody else has already done and put it in yours. They always say there's nothing new under the sun, so people will always have similar ideas, but it's about the way that you express it is what copyright protects.
All right, here's another one. How do I get permission for biblical references? Do we need permission for biblical references?
So this was actually a hot topic for me in a session I did with a church recently. The Bible as written, there are versions of the Bible that are way out of copyright protection. But then there are new versions of the Bible. I saw one that was published as recent as 2021. So now if you take John 3:16 out of that version and use it in your book, you would have to, one, acknowledge the version of the Bible that you've used, because the New Standard Version is not the same like the King James Version, but there might be a reason why you want to use the later one. The later one may have copyright protection, but this is why, again, it's usually important to check the copyright disclaimer that I mentioned, because inside of the Bible itself, it might say no rights reserved. So you have to check. And again, check to make sure that the version of the Bible that you're using is not within copyright protection. Most of the Bible is outside of protection. So
can you clarify what you mean by no rights reserved versus something like all rights reserved?
So No rights. We're not reserving any rights at all. So we're taking down the fence. Do whatever you want. Pick as many tomatoes from our tree as you want. No rights. But all rights, every single picket in our fence is up. And if you want access to what's inside here, you have to ask for permission.
And I've seen Bibles or other books that instead of saying all rights reserved, they give permission for you to use the material only to cite, only to make reference that you got it from them.
Right.
So I've seen persons say you can copy, you can whatever, just give credit. That's the term I'm looking for. So
Yes.
I think I saw one version like that and a book. The King James version, the authorized version, is free to use. It's no longer in covered by copyright. So if to be on the safe side, you could always quote from that. You still have to put most of the sites, they ask you to give credit and they tell you how to give the credit, to put NLT or whatnot. And they actually, so when you go on a website where the scripture is, it actually tells you how to use that version. So you may want to consider that as well. All right, here's a big question. Jihan's second point was about registering your book. Can you explain a bit more about this process?
So it goes back to, and I think Ruth, you were mentioning that earlier as well, where jam copy would come in, or in the US, I think it's the Library of Congress. Michael could correct me. So you register your books with these organizations, and in return, they will send you a certificate that basically says that on the 17th of July, 2021, C. Ruth Taylor deposited this book with our organization, and we certify that this book existed on the 17th of July, 2021. So then if somebody, and you have that certificate, so then if somebody now comes in 2024 and says, Ruth stole my book that I published in 2022, Ruth now has this certificate from Jam Copy or the US Library of Congress that says, hey, hello, I've had this since 2021. Here is my proof. So this is the benefit of registering. However, it's not something that you have to do to get copyright. But I do know in the US, you have to register in order to sue for copyright infringement. But it's not something that's mandatory to do. It's advisable.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
No, that you said everything I was going to say about the US.
I was going to add to that. So even before you publish the book in Jamaica, I can't speak to the other territories. We have the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, JIPO, and you can take your manuscript and you can go and submit it to get the certificate of protection to say you own the copyright. So it's a small fee, less than $20 US. And so I've advised some of my authors, I say, are you settled on the title? Because, sometimes they keep changing the title. Are you settled on your title and subtitle? Then take the raw manuscript and go to JIPO and register. Because authors, I find, they're very concerned about people stealing. I'm not that concerned, but authors generally are very concerned about people stealing their books. And so I encourage them to go to JIPO, get that done. Also, the National Library of Jamaica, we are required to do legal deposits. And if you don't, when you publish the material, you can be fined. It's supposed to be 50,000 Jamaican dollars, which is about maybe $300 US, if you don't deposit your work. And that deposit, they normally send back a letter to state that this is your work. It was deposited on XY day And that too can be used as evidence, because what we want is evidence to prove ownership earlier than the person who is now saying, this is my book. And evidence can also be when you apply for the ISBN, because it has the date, or when you apply for the CIP, which is the cataloging publishing data, it actually asks you who edited this, the address, your phone number, all kind of things are required, and that is from CARICOM. So that can also be part of the evidence, as well as the submission to like a jam copy. That is evidence that can help you to prove, because that's what our guy had to do to prove. Or even when the book is published and Amazon sends you that email to say your book is now published, if you keep the paper trail, you can, or your contract with their publishing company, all of those can be used as part of evidence to say, this person is claiming this at this time, but look at all my material, my paper trail. So those things can help in terms of proving copyright ownership.
Yep. And just to say quickly, Jamaica is actually unique in that, because that system where you can go to JIPO, that's called a voluntary registration system.
Yes.
And Jamaica, I think, might be the only country in the Caribbean that has a voluntary registration system. So most other people tend to go to the US and use very basic tools like emailing it to yourself as a way to help establish evidence.
Awesome. Big up Jamaica.
Nevis is coming close. Don't worry.
Because we're serious, and a part of our national development plan says we want to use intellectual property rights as a tool for socioeconomic development.
I was so happy when I heard that, and I said I'm going to have to show the Prime Minister, like, you see what Jamaica is saying? We need to be saying these kind of things too.
All right, here's another question. I knew a lot of questions would come from this session, you know. If there is a copyright violation in your written work, could your publisher be held accountable in any way for publishing the piece of work? Just before they answer, the experts, in our contract, we have an indemnity clause and a warranty that says that's your responsibility and you will take full responsibility for that. We will not be sued or anything like that. So in our publishing contract, when I was a solopreneur and as Bamboo Sparks, a company, we have that clause to secure our hides. So over to the experts to explain.
Yeah, I can start. So yes, there are two clauses called the warranty clause and the indemnification clause. The warranty clause basically is you, the author, warranting that your work does not infringe upon the rights, typically copyrights, but it will typically be the word rights of a third party. The indemnification clause will typically say that if the publisher is sued or if there is some sort of lawsuit arising from some sort of copyright infringement in your work, that you will indemnify, either hold harmless or save or defend the publisher from any lawsuits that come by. So what could happen is the publisher is going to publish the book. So they're going to be the ones with their name out there. So the publisher will probably get sued first, but then they'll hold up that clause and they'll say, no, we had the author sign this clause. So it gets complicated as to what actually happens, but the short of it is that no, they generally speaking will not be held accountable. At the end of the day, you're warranting that your work is free of any sort of copyright infringements, which goes back to what Jihan keeps saying is better to be safe than sorry and get that permission in writing so that it doesn't cause problems down the road. Jihan, you can
I
go.
think actually I would, and I totally agree with what you said. I would answer it a different way because the question was, can the publisher be held accountable? The publisher can be held accountable if there is not an indemnity or warranty clause. And I think it's important to say that because Ruth, I noticed last night and yesterday, there were mentions about becoming a publishing coach and a lot of encouragement for persons to publish, in the publishers and things like that. So if you're using a publisher who doesn't have much regulations, is just kind of doing things off the top of their head, I mean, this is liability for a publisher as well, because you have participated in the publishing of this book, which is a copyright infringement. So all those who have participated in the infringement could be directly or indirectly liable if there hasn't been an indemnity or warranty clause.
Okay. We have about 10 minutes to wrap up. So I'm going to take the chat GPT question. In what way can ChatGPT be used to assist with editing your manual? Should there be any concern with pasting an unpublished book in ChatGPT to assist with editing? Excellent question, Michael.
That is a good question. So there's a couple parts to this. I'll take the last part of your question first. Should there be any concern with pasting an unpublished book in ChatGPT? Yes. So when you use these tools, keep in mind that I use this word intentionally, you are investing your data with these companies. You're spending your data. Treat your data like you treat your money, right? So if you wouldn't give money to some shady guy on the street, don't give money to a company that doesn't have a track record in AI, because any data you use will be used to train the models. All right. Now, me personally, and I think a lot of people at ALLi would agree that as long as you pick a reputable company that has a good policy in terms of being transparent in how they're using their data, they give you the ability to opt out, then we think that the trade-off that you can potentially get from the usefulness of that app is worth it. But yes, if you are concerned about that, then don't use the tool. I just want to make sure I call that out, that you are investing your data with these companies, and we don't always know particularly what they're going to do with it. So if that is a concern for you, just morally, ethically, then don't use the tools. But again, balance that with the trade-off of what you can get from that tool. So that's what I'll say to the last part of that question. ChatGPT is just a simply marvelous tool for editing. So it can help you catch typos, but one of the ways that I like to use it is I kind of like to, went to law school. We do the Socratic method, where the professor asks you questions and you have to answer the questions, and you go back and forth and you have this dialogue about a case or a legal theory. ChatGPT can do that too. So for example, you can ask it to role play. So I had a novel I was writing where one of the characters was a scientist, and he was a specialist in rodent biology. So I told ChatGPT, pretend that you are in a critically acclaimed rodent biologist, and read this chapter and tell me what I got right and what I got wrong about the depiction of rats in the book. Right. And ChatGPT gave me some really interesting answers. Like it said, well, if a rat was walking down a hallway, it probably wouldn't see it like that. It would see it like this. Okay. So you can use it to role play. You can have it pretend to be anything that you want it to be. You can have, if you're writing nonfiction, you can have it test your ideas. Right. So if you say XYZ, does that make sense? And you can have it debate you. So you could say, well, you said this and this and this, but I think that, somebody could take issue with how you said this because maybe you need a source, or maybe your idea isn't fully fleshed out. So you could almost think about it like a running partner. You know, somebody that can just, a sounding board that you can bounce ideas off of. Now, not all those ideas may be good, but that's okay. That it's more than what you would have if you didn't use it. So I encourage people to be really creative in thinking about how you can use it. But the role playing is a really, really useful tool that honestly has made a really big difference in my writing over the last few months.
Thank you so much, Michael. I had no idea you could do that. So you're giving me ideas there. And I just want to say I'm learning along with everybody else. You two have been marvelous. This has been really informative. And so I want to thank you for sharing and ask if there are any final words before we end this session.
Well, just to say thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be invited back. So I think that I really applaud what you're doing with the Authorpreneur Summit, Ruth. And just to let you know, I'm fully in with the 2030 Summit. I truly believe I want to see more Kittition and Nevision people publishing books. So I'm with you on that. So thank you for your work. Thank you, Michael, for your presentation as well, because it was truly informative for me. And so I look forward to hearing more about ALLi and hearing the rest presentations for the rest of the summit.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jihan, and it was a pleasure listening to your presentation as well. And it's always good to connect with another legal mind. And Ruth, thank you for having me, and thank you all for being here. You know, giving up some time on a Saturday morning, that takes some dedication, and you know, I applaud all of you for that. And I really look forward to seeing you achieve the 2030 vision. And at ALLi, if there's any way we can be helpful to you to help with that, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. And I'm glad you said that, because my interview on one of the ALLi podcasts, which is the Inspiration podcast, is coming out this Sunday. So I'm going to share that. So ALLi is already helping. And yes, so yeah, I'm gonna be in talks with ALLi some more. I'm a big ALLi fan. You are part of my staple listening podcast each week, along with Joanna. So thank you so much. Now, ALLi is open to all authors and publishers. What they will do is that I'm gonna send you the link. So in the Summit Toolkit, you're gonna get the link, the affiliate link to join and all the information. But essentially, if you are a publisher too, they will check you out to see if you are legit, and they have a watchdog unit. And so, like for Bamboo Sparks, we submitted our application and we were granted an excellent rating. Of course, we have to maintain that. And so it's about ethics and excellence. And then if you need information, they have a lot of guidebooks, whether it's estate planning, whether it's getting a movie deal, whether it's understanding the publishing process. They just have a ton of information there. And if you have questions, you know, on the journey, you can write them and they will answer it. So I just want to commend ALLi for what it is doing. And they have a summit like this every year as well. The self-publishing conference, it's called, I think. Michael, is it? Yes. Self-publishing con. I think it's held in October every year online. So you can check it out. I put all of that in the summit notes. That's why I insist that you register. So thank you so much. Again, our users are saying excellent session. And it was eye-opening. So thank you so much, lady and gentleman.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to wrap up. I have 2 minutes to wrap up. What was your takeaway from this session, everybody? Just type it in the comments real quick. What's the biggest takeaway from this session? I know it's been helpful. So what's the biggest takeaway? What are you leaving with? And I want you to remember that we are keeping the presentation on the YouTube channel, Authorpreneur Secrets. Please help me hit 500 before the summit is over, 500 subscribers. And so those who missed the presentation, you can share it, because this one is extremely important for all authors, right? So any takeaways? Let me see that in the comments section. What's the biggest takeaway before we go? What's your biggest takeaway? On YouTube, what's the biggest takeaway? In the Facebook group? Anybody going once? Oh, okay, so Auntie Pat says her takeaway is the wide extent of AI tools. Good. We're happy about that. Somebody else? What was any other takeaway? Okay, Everyday Kingdom Living says, know your rights as an author and how to get permission from previously published works. Yeah, put some fire in the chat. Very grateful to these two presenters. And I'm going to introduce you to at least one of Michael's books and Jihan's book. And then remember, if you want to learn to write and publish cost effectively and how to leverage your book for greater impact and income, get the Authorpreneur Secrets book. And so thank you so much for joining. Remember to come back this evening where we're going to do the Caribbean Publisher Spotlight. You're going to hear their story from author to publisher. And don't forget to register for the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy membership group. All right. So before I play the final videos, let me put up back that information. To register for the membership group, you have 10 days to do so. Go to authorpreneursecrets.com/ASAM. And I have done some adjustments to the payment area. So just go there, peruse it. You can pay $99 per month for 3 to 6 months. You can unsubscribe at any time, or you can pay a one-time fee. It is only for those who are serious about writing and publishing a book in the next 6 months. And remember, publishing normally, self-publishing cost normally starts from $1,000, all the way up to $10,000. So this is a special offer, right, to publish for less than $1,000 US. It goes away at the end of January. All right. So if you want to test it out for the first month or two, we have the book, we have resources, you'll get a coach, all of those things that you heard about. So you can go right there to authorpreneursecrets.com/ASAM for the membership group. All right. And then we have a payment portal. Once you click the thing, it will come up there. All right. So we're going to close out the show with our usual set of ads and invite you to come back this evening. We want you to go penny to win it and dominate authorpreneurship. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and share this episode with a friend. See you later.
Throughout our lives, we encounter adventures and memorable events. Making the most of these events is key, because these adventures create milestones in our lives, and what better way to document these milestones than through books? Milestones big or small, but they all hold a special place in our hearts. The accomplishments may be personal, such as graduating from school or getting a promotion at work, or they may be shared with others, such as getting married or even having a child. These books can serve as a reminder of the hard work and dedication that went into reaching that goal. They can capture the memories and emotions associated with it, and they can be cherished for years to come. No matter what the milestone is, capture it in a book.